Hi folks, this is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Welcome to another program. This program will be about some of the things that I've discussed before. I will try not to make it too repetitive, but it's difficult not to, given the horrendous nature of the situation which is now occurring in the Near East or the Middle East. Let me first start with an unrelated subject, and that is that I am pleased that I have now become friends with the standard bearer for Maoism-Third Worldism. I won't mention his name for two reasons. First, I dislike name dropping, and second, because I feel like it would be inappropriate out of consideration for his privacy. But I am happy that friendship has developed, and we are also working together as colleagues. So he is a very good person, and I find working with him to be a real pleasure. Now, on to the subject that I wanted to address in this video, and that is the ongoing war between Palestine and Israel, which now threatens to totally spin out of control. The last time I addressed the subject, the war was basically just starting, and it was not really clear exactly what direction it would go in. I guess that still is the case. Nothing materially has changed that much, except I guess the blowing up of the hospital by the Israelis. But it still is a very dire situation, and I hope that the situation will eventually calm down and that both sides will reach some sort of accommodation. My concern that other countries may become involved. Iran, Syria, North Korea, among others, may become involved in this war. It may turn into a much wider conflict, possibly even, maybe unlikely, but possibly, a third world war. Look at what is happening around the world. Not only do we have this horrendous situation going on in the Near East, but we also have the continuing war going on between Russia and Ukraine. It is a very difficult world that we are living in right now, and it simply does not appear to be improving. So what can be done? Well, I suppose if I knew that I would be a very, very wealthy man, much wealthier than I am. I really don't. I have no idea. This situation between the Israelis and the Palestinians has been going on for so long. The hostilities are so deeply ingrained on both sides that even talking about peace is a very difficult prospect, and perhaps even unrealistic. One thing that has changed is that now the Israeli government has talked about the possibility of literally removing all Palestinians from Palestine, or at least from certain portions of Palestine. Now, where they would go is unclear. Bibi Netanyahu has had, at least in the past, a friendship with the president or the king of Jordan, and perhaps Some of them may go to Jordan, although Jordan really has taken in so many Palestinians in the past that not too long ago they announced that they simply did not have enough room. So I don't know if that is realistic. But the war is getting worse, not better. The tensions are continuing to escalate. And again, the danger is that other countries that thus far have not been involved, but in some cases have threatened to do precisely that, might become involved in this conflict, making it even more potentially treacherous. So, I wish I knew what to do. What we are seeing literally is a war between the first world and the third world. And the third world in this case is also the fourth world. Third world being a developing nation, Palestine. A relatively poor nation, Palestine. Fourth world, as I use it, referring to something like Antonio Gramsci's concept of the subaltern, the people who are so thoroughly disenfranchised, the people who occupy the lowest rung of society, that they literally have no power. They are beneath the proletariat, beneath it. That does not mean that they are incapable of developing class consciousness. It just means that their situation is really, really dire. The subaltern, in my view, should be distinguished from the lumpen proletariat. As that term was used by Marx, it referred to workers without class consciousness. Marx had a rather negative view of them, and given the fact that Marx was concerned with revolution, with workers developing class consciousness, one can understand why he had that negative view. I mean, his negative view was not personal, I don't think. He had nothing against individual lumpen proletarians, but he did not see them as being capable revolutionaries. So he dismissed them. Basically, he dismissed them, and I think that makes complete sense. That's not the same thing as the subaltern, a term that was coined, again, by Antonio Gramsci, and which has expanded, in my view, Marxist theory to cover an entirely different category of people, one that Marx did not discuss. So, if we look at the othered, the marginalized people in the world, well, certainly that would include the Palestinians. Not only the Palestinians, but the Palestinians would be numbered among them. Some indigenous populations throughout the world, not all. Certain indigenous populations are quite prosperous, but some indigenous populations are very poor, are oppressed, and alienated. Well, the Palestinians are an indigenous population. They are the indigenous people of Palestine. The Israelis come mostly from other places, like Europe, like North America, like Australia, like New Zealand, and other parts of the world that are more or less developed to varying degrees. The Palestinians were there before there was an Israel. So I really don't know where this is going to lead, but I wanted to make this program just to point out what I see as the real dangers that we are facing as a world right now. Much greater than at any time in my, how old am I? 67? I try to forget that sometimes. At any time in my 67 years, I've never seen this much danger, from my perspective, in the world, where so many crises are happening at the same time. The prospect of Donald Trump possibly being re-elected President of the United States. The problems in Ukraine and the problems in Palestine, among many others. So I don't know what can be done to resolve it. Any of these problems. I really don't. I really wish I did. I reflect on this issue all the time of Palestine and on the other issues as well. And I try to come up with realistic solutions for resolving them. I am a critical realist in the tradition of Roy Bhaskar, which means I'm not an idealist. I'm not interested in hope. Nothing wrong with hope. But hope is not going to solve our problems. We don't need hope. We need praxis, meaning we need practice. We need action. Something that will actually do something. Hope is not action. Hope is subjective. Hope will not change anything. The New Thought movement, which was popular around the turn of the 20th century, was based upon hope, upon relying upon an alleged universal mind, merging our minds into that universal mind, and trying to create some change. As an aside, I remember attending a seminar that was given by a science of mind minister in the Kansas City area. It was actually in Kansas City, Missouri. And during the question and answer period, I pressed him for an answer on a very weird subject, but I wanted to see how he would respond to it. My question was, say you arrived on the moon with no spacesuit, with no oxygen tank, but you believed that you would be able to breathe. Could you? If you really, really, really believed it, from the bottom of your heart, that was a conviction that you had. And he said yes. I did not respond. I just sat there and listened. But on my way home to Olathe, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City, where I lived at that time before moving to Mission, Texas, I laughed hysterically the whole way home. Such is New Thought, an outgrowth of Christian Science of Mary Baker Eddy, which itself was an outgrowth of the teachings of Phineas Quimby, although Christian scientists deny it. But Mary Baker Eddy was a student of Phineas Quimby, and in fact, if you read her book, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, much of it is plagiarized directly from the writings of Phineas Quimby. That does not work. Hope, new thought, changing our minds, thinking in a new way, fine, do it, if it makes you feel any better. But is it going to resolve the problems in Palestine? Is it going to resolve the problems in Ukraine? Is it going to resolve the possible upcoming problems in the presidential elections of 2024. Absolutely not. That is not the solution to our problems. This is Mark, by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.